Can you tell me exactly when your wildflowers and weeds start blooming? If you can't do stuff like that, you aren't connecting with nature. Hello witches, and welcome back to Activist Witch, where we discuss witchcraft and activism. You can call me Isha, my pronouns are she, they. And in today's video, we're going to discuss about the ways that I try to connect to my land here in Wales. But before we get started, let me remind you that I've opened a Ko-fi, which is an alternative to Patreon that takes less from creators. And on there you can do a monthly donation, a one-off donation, or even buy a tarot reading with me, Italian style. The low-income option starts at £5. And for the foreseeable future, any income that I get from tarot readings goes directly to support Cuccis to Gaza, who are part of the mutual aid groups that helps and support Palestinian people relocate to Egypt. So if you decide to support me there, thank you so very much. Right, this is a video that exists because you, my wonderful viewers, voted for it. So from time to time, do check the community tab and see if there's a poll. From time to time, I say because sometimes I'm very tired and I just scramble to make a video like I did last week and we had a voiceover and hopefully that's okay as well. But thank you for your patience. But this video was an idea for two main reasons. One is that I have the time of my life going outside and starting to recognize plants and trees. It's something that I started to do in conjunction with when I started to practice witchcraft, and I've never really talked about it, have I? So here we're going to do that. But also from the last panel that I did, What Would You Do? The esoteric edition with Video Cultist and many others. I'll link it down in the description below. One of the questions was about plant spirits, and at the beginning I was like, I don't really do spirits really. But then everybody's answer made me realize, oh, it's all the stuff that I do to try and connect with the land, with recognizing plants, with working with them. So I was like, maybe it's worth having a chat about it. Also, and I need to put this out first things, I saw recently also a post on Tumblr that was talking pretty much about that, but in a gatekeeping way. And if you know me, I am not for gatekeeping. And this post went like this. For the witches and pagans who need to hear it, connecting with nature is supposed to be about actually observing nature over long periods of time, not doing stuff like hoarding endangered bird feathers and beach sand or just meditating out in aesthetically pleasing locations. Can you tell me exactly when your wildflowers and weeds start blooming? When do your bugs come out of hibernation? When do migratory birds come and go? How does the air feel during different times of year? If you can't do stuff like that, you aren't connecting with nature. Now, I always want to give the benefit of the doubt to people, so maybe this person didn't mean to be gatekeepy, but ultimately is what it sounds like. And the first thing that I need to highlight is if all you do is going out and have a walk in nature, that's still very good, and that's where you start. So don't be put off by the idea of, no, if you don't know when stuff flowers, if you don't know when the bugs come out. It's completely fair that you don't know. If you start going out in time, you will. But it's not necessarily the be-all and all of things. It's a process, it's not a goal that we're aiming for. The process doesn't end. For example, if you've seen one of the videos where I mention it, I was born and raised in Italy on a farm. I come from generations of farmers, really. So to me, at the beginning, it was really normal to see things planted and harvested in our garden, in our yard. We had an allotment basically as part of the farm. My grandparents sort of retired from farming by the time that I was born, but it was part intrinsically of who they were. I have very, very normal memories of saving seeds to then plant them. I don't think we ever bought vegetables or fruit until I moved out and went to university, actually. And yet, because it was something done automatically by the people that I lived with, I never quite got into it myself. I mentioned before, my grandmother had an amazing green thumb. People came from all the village with cuttings because she had this thing, she could make anything sprout again. But I wasn't necessarily that much into it. It was just around, it was just there. I think two things stay with me from my childhood. One is hazel, because we used to have a hazel tree in the backyard. Actually, our neighbor used to have a hazel tree, but because it was on the border of the properties, the hazelnuts would fall on our side, so my grandmother and I would go harvest them. They were on our side anyway. And the other thing is poplars, black poplars, Italian poplars actually, because it's one of the trees that my grandparents would plant and then sort of live there for 10 years and then sell the wood from. And they have a very specific scent when they bloom, and that stuck with me. But for a very long time, I knew the scent, but I couldn't recognize visually a poplar. Same with hazel, until I started to practice. So I started to practice in September of 2022, all the stuff that came from my childhood and was very folky, magic-y, I dusted off and I was like, okay, let's try to do things now. Let's try to see if I can remember stuff and if I can actually dig back and connect to my past through this. And indeed I did. I tried to find at the beginning an app that, based on a picture, would tell me what am I looking at. I think the first app that I tried must have been the National Trust. I'll check if it's that. But it just had basically an encyclopedia of trees, and I still had to recognize them visually myself, which at the beginning, I don't know if you've noticed, tell me if it's different for you, but for me at the beginning, the greenery of a park, the greenery of the city, it was just greenery. Nothing spoke particularly to me. It was just this green stuff that it was around. Nice. It also helps with taking down the heat of a place, but there wasn't much else really. And it's a shame because, you know, everybody knows names of certain trees, but I think very few of us are able to just point at a tree and say, ah, that tree is that. And that's exactly because we don't quite have that education that comes from anywhere unless, again, we come from rural life, but even then, there's not much that I remembered. However, when you start to practice, in every beginner's book, at some point you will hear, oh, for this spell, this and this herb would work well, these are good correspondences. And by all means, we can go in a store or we can go on Amazon to buy it. But what I found out is that there's a lot of indigenous herbs and trees that we have around that we just don't know are there and are part of all those lists of correspondences that are very helpful. I don't know about you, but likely in your local park you have pine, you have cedar. We don't necessarily recognize them or understand that they are different because they are they conifers? They are evergreens. They are all evergreens, but then the foliage is still different, the needle are different. And a bundle of cedar, it's going to be very, very well used in cleansing the house, bringing health, those kind of things. So finally, what I settled on app-wise was this app called Picture This. I think it's mainly done in AI, and I think even Olivia, the Witch of Wonderlust, mentioned it in the panel that we did on Ivy. And by all means, they also mentioned don't necessarily trust this all the time, which is kind of true, but in my experience, it hasn't done a mistake yet. However, and this is a funny story that I can tell you, when I go around with this app, not only myself, but even people that I know now, they send me pictures saying, hey, can you tell me what this was? I've noticed this. When I go around and I start to identify things, they are elevated from just being greenery in the background. And after the second or third time that I identify them, I start to just recognize them. I think the first thing that I ever recognized was a bit of greenery that we had in our backyard here, just growing literally between stones and bricks, and identified it as a butterfly bush. A butterfly bush is just considered a weed, but it's incredibly good for, guess what, bees and butterflies. It makes nectar, it makes honey. And after I recognized that, I realized that it's the most common weed around where I live. But it's not so much as a bad weed because, again, it helps the bugs' life and the pollinators. But I'm sure a lot of people just seeing it around would find it, oh, this impedes my grass in places, this is just a weed. And like Bente the Norse witch said to me personally, was there is no such thing as a weed for a witch. And oh my gosh, if that's true. I wish I had a recording of me identifying for the first time mugwort in the wild here in Cardiff. I sort of had an idea of what it would look like. I kept on mistaking it for others until one day I take out Picture This. I'm sure that, oh, it looks sort of, but maybe not. And oh my gosh, it was mugwort in the wild here in my hometown. Those are good feelings. And most importantly, those are things that you can harvest without having to buy them. They are just considered weeds out there, but they are very useful. Another weed that I realized I have in the cracks of my pavement is wild chamomile. And apparently it's very, very good when you do infusions, just like chamomile. And it's literally growing from the cracks of the pavement. Also, something that occurred to me through a specific weed that I kind of started to see. And once I identified it the first time, I saw it everywhere. Like, it takes over everything and everywhere. It doesn't do anything bad, like it's not a parasite or anything like that. But oh my gosh, if it disperses very well. And it's fleabane. I had plants of lavender in my backyard, and most of it didn't do great. By the way, if you're in the UK, Lavandula angustifolia is the one that you want. It's British lavender. Lavandula stoica doesn't work well here. Like, mine dies immediately, but angustifolia lasts. So just a hint there. If you've noticed it, have you noticed it as well? That's what I've noticed. Angustifolia, yes. Stoica, no. Anyway, all of my stoica lavandula died, but all my little pots were overtaken still by fleabane. And sometimes it has red leaves, sometimes it has this sort of indigo flowers at the top. And it made me realize that it disperses so easily and so well that it must be a great plant to do prosperity work with. Like, I know that we would go to basil or to cinnamon, but I genuinely would give fleabane a chance in that, because the way that it disperses and multiplies, you do want money to do that. Also, picture this, it's a free app. Technically, it keeps telling you, oh, you could register, but realistically, it can stay free forever. It just doesn't let you keep more than, I think, 20 of your last plants identified there. And if you're a broke witch like me, that's kinda useful. Like, you keep on recognizing things, and after a while, usually it takes me 2 or 3 attempts to recognize something, then it finally becomes familiar. And now I know when I go around what stuff is, which it gives me the feeling like sort of seeing an old friend. Does it sound silly? But that's the feeling. When I see a kind of plant of the same kind in different places, I feel like we sort of already know each other, and that feels like very close to the literal stuff that grows out of the earth, out of the land that I live in. I will report the one mistake that Picture This ever did with me, because it's kind of funny, and it actually helped me to learn something about the genus of plants. So, I find this plant in the crack of a pavement around here, and I see that it has these yellow flowers and this sort of bean stalks out of it. And my thought was, this must be rapeseed, where you make rapeseed oil, because the bean stalk felt like it had all the beans inside, and I was like, it's realistic, it could be that. So here's the thing, I see this plant, I identify it, and I think that it's rapeseed, the one that you make canola oil from. But I identify it, and Picture This seems confused. At some point I thought that it merged 2 plants, because it told me that this plant was rutabaga, so Swede or Swedish turnip. But also, on the other levels of how it calls it, it also said rapeseed oil, canola. And I was like, those are 2 very different things. A turnip, a Swede, it's the big Swede yellowish purple turnip, and rapeseed, which you make the oil from, is just these yellow flowers with beanstalks. What do they possibly have in common? It's just a mistake, isn't it? This is insane to me. Okay, in the taxonomy, when you go to Wikipedia, and this is a brassica. Brassicas are all those plants that then in different ways are developed to be broccoli, cauliflower, mustards, are all under the same kind of group. And Swede and rapeseed as well. However, both rapeseed and Swede are under the taxonomy of the genome called Brassica napus. Then the rapeseed is Brassica napus napus, and the Swede, the turnip, is Brassica napus rapifera. So it's the 3rd subspecies that they don't share, despite the fact that they technically look so different to the untrained eye. But then Picture This wasn't wrong, it simply evidently goes to the 2nd subspecies without going to the 3rd. And because they share the 2nd subspecies, both rapeseed and Swede are Brassica napus, that's why Picture This told me, this can be Swede or rapeseed. that was very peculiar, and it made me learn things that I would have never likely learned about the species of Brassica. Hello, Stelina. The species of Brassica that actually I wouldn't have known are connected to each other. And what is that if not literally connecting to your land and understanding how the earth and the dirt works? Because these things grow from cracks in the pavement, but they are something that makes a difference. I don't know, I personally love it. It's, again, like I go around and I start seeing old friends. And again, in witchcraft, we use a lot of herbs and plants and barks and trees as correspondences. So here's my scaling tools suggestion. If you're a broke witch like me, you know what? The app, Picture This, is completely free. You start go around and you start to identify things, and you will start to recognize them. And you will probably find out that in your local park, or quite literally in your road, the stuff that grows from the cracks can be incredibly useful, and you can just gather it and forage it, because otherwise they are considered weeds anyway, and they are gonna be like taken off, and that's actually sad. It happened to the pavement across me, and that wasn't nice to see. But you can actually do something and work with them. I still haven't gathered my wild chamomile because I just like it to be there, but before they take it away as a weed, I'll definitely get some. Something of a companion to Picture This, if you have 10 to 12 quid to spare, is the Culpeper Complete Herbal. There are so many editions. This is a herbal book, herbalism book, that was around in the 1500s, like under Elizabethan time, and in different versions. I think this is a facsimile of a version that was around in the 1800s. It has images, and it has, because at the time herbalism and magic was the same thing, it has a lot of correspondences, especially for what concerns the energy of plants, the connection to planets. So once you discover them with Picture This, you can go to Culpeper and see, what are the correspondences for this? I would advise on an annotated new version though, because there are a lot of plants that have changed their name. An example for that is the ritual that we did with my coven at Ostara. We had little pots and we planted wild seeds with an intention written on the bottom of this pot. And then things a couple of months later started to sprout. I immediately went there with my Picture This to identify what I had, and what I had personally was corn flour. I went to look for corn flour into this. Corn flour is not here. It's weird, it's a pretty popular flower, isn't it? It's because in the 1800s was called Bachelor's Blue, I want to say? Blue Bottle, yes. Sorry, it was also Bachelor or something, but it was Blue Bottle. And the new annotated versions have the names not updated, but added onto. So yeah, I mean, I really like that this looks so antique, but it's not as functional as I would like it to be. So a Culpeper annotated edition, it's a nice thing because it has pretty much anything. It has fleabane, and it has the names that we use today, because you wouldn't go and try to find the corn flour as Blue Bottle nowadays, would you? Maybe you would, I wouldn't have known. To Picture This credit, when I identified my corn flour, it told me that it's also known as Bachelor's Button, Blue Cap, Boutonniere Flower, Corn Butter, Blue Bonnet, Blue Blob, Blue Bottle, which is how it's in the Culpeper. So use these things together, it works very nicely. Something that I've got recently into, and it's the fault of Imogen and Sylvie, I'll link their videos down in the description below, is the Herbcrafter Tarot. Basically, it has a plant or herb in each and every of the cards of tarot. But it also comes with a very nice guide that, other than talking about the connection of that plant to the card of the tarot that it represents, talks a lot about the herbalism as well. So if you have a green witch desire for a green thumb, this could be something interesting. I really like it. I finally fell for it again because I kept on seeing it through Imogen and Sylvie. And now I have got a few copies on a coven of 2. So hey, if you also would like to support my little store, you can get one of, I think, 5 copies that I have of the Herbcrafter Tarot through a coven of 2. And it's so pretty. I'll put actually b-roll and pictures here because it's very, very pretty. And it has all this information. I love the more information you give me about a herb, the better. I love it. Yes, more. So here's my advice on things that you can do to feel more connected to your place, to the land that you're in, because I guarantee you must have some greenery around. Even those that you consider just weeds are actually things that likely have a meaning, a connection. And once you see it once and you recognize it, you'll start to see it again and to recognize it. And that is how you basically start to develop a relationship with a herb, to work with it, and then to maybe use it in spells, to make bundles to then smoke clean your house, or all those kind of things that realistically, when you start to practice, you hear about them and then you run to Amazon to buy bags and bags of dried stuff. There is so much just outside the door that is just there for the taking, because again, most people just consider them an annoyance, a nuisance, because, oh, they're weeds. But again, as Bente said, there is no such thing as a weed for a witch. I hope that this video was useful. If you have any questions, please leave them here in the comments. And until next time, I really hope that we can hex the patriarchy together, because there's need for it.